You're listening to WUSM Hattiesburg. It's time for the Southern Miss Student Media Weekly Wrap-Up. The Southern Miss Student Media Weekly Wrap-Up is a look at the events Southern Miss Student Media covered throughout the week and the events Southern Miss Student Media is working on for next week.
Good afternoon, Southern Miss and Hattiesburg, and welcome to the Southern Miss Student Media Weekly Wrap-Up. My name is Andy Borelli, and I'm your host for today. I'm the editor for the Student Prince and have been for this semester. It's my first semester here at Southern Miss. What we're talking about today, we're just going to be going over the latest in the Southern Miss Student Media world, what come out this week in the Student Prince, and what's to come.
Hello, I'm Dr. Ed Simpson, Director of the School of Media and Communication at USM. Join me on Southern Miss Radio Friday afternoons at 12:30 for a new show, News You Need. On News You Need, USM students will discuss current events and why those events are important to them. Listen in on how the future citizens of the U.S. consider news and how those news events affect their lives. Join me for News You Need, Fridays at 12:30 on Southern Miss Radio.
All right, son. Time to put out this campfire.
Dad, we learned about this in school.
Oh, did you now? Okay. What's first?
Smokey Bear said to.
First drown it with a bucket of water, then stir it with a shovel.
Wow, you sound just like him.
Then he said.
If it's still warm, then do it again.
Where can I learn all this?
It's all on SmokeyBear.com with other wildfire prevention tips, because only you can prevent wildfires.
Brought to you by the USDA Forest Service, your state forester, and the Ad Council.
Join Southern Miss Radio on Sunday mornings from 6 a.m. till noon for Sunday Brunch. You'll get jazz and swing music from artists as wide-ranging as Bix Beiderbecke to Brad Meldau, from Dippermouth himself to Esperanza Spalding. But relax, you don't need to know anything about the music to enjoy it. It's a great way to wake up on Sunday morning. Sunday Brunch from 6 a.m. until noon on Southern Miss Radio.
All right, everybody, welcome back. We're here in the studio today. Like I said before, my name is Andy Borelli, and I'm the editor for the Student Prince here at Southern Miss. I'm a junior at Southern Miss, currently a journalism major. Big week this week for student media. Earlier this week, kind of in the weekend, we had our second episode of Hub City Game Day, which I am a co-analyst on, and you can find both episodes of it on Southern Miss Student Media YouTube. Me, Gabe, and Bethal, we like to think we're doing a good job talking about sports around the nation as well as Southern Miss. Another thing that happened, we had the Student Prince this week, Thursday. Thursday it came out. We have a couple of big stories. One big story we had to highlight was the name change of the Diversity, Equality, and Inclusion Office, changing their name to the Office of Community and Belonging. Other colleges around the state have taken this change to further include more people and bringing in and warming more people up to Hattiesburg, and also trying to just help with the overall Another thing we had, a local band performs to aid Palestinian Children's Fund for children that are being displaced in the turmoil in the Mideast. You know, our hearts go out to people who are killed in these wars, and it's just a sad thing. Another thing we can talk about, the University of Southern Mississippi is preparing for their Carnegie reclassification now. I'll be honest with y'all, when I first heard this, I thought this meant that we were getting another R1, R2, or D classification as far as research. No, this actually goes towards our community involvement. So we hope that Southern Miss gets a good score on that. That's a big deal, especially for small town colleges like Southern Miss. As we go along, we find out that the university has setting goal plans for the 2025 through 2029 school year. I'm sorry, y'all. This is my first time.
You're fine.
I'm just nervous. I've never done this before. One of the biggest stories that happened, and we covered this in the paper this week, was the presidential debate last week. You know, I don't like to get political, but it was a big deal, especially to students. You know, people my age, we try to get into politics and learn this because it's the future of our country. We had a few students chime in on their thoughts on the presidential election. I'll tell you, if you're a student at Southern Miss and you want to read the student prints, we have it in just about every building on campus. You look for a cart or a little basket that says student prints, and they are free. Take one, take two, take as many as you want. We like to keep this going. This, it's not the biggest form of media as it was one time, but newsprint is still a big deal. Radio and television have taken over the media world in the last 50 years, but still paper is a big deal, and it's a good way to keep up with current events. Another big deal is sports. Now, y'all, we all know that football hasn't been a strong spot for Southern Miss in recent years, and it sure did look pretty bad Saturday night against South Florida. Southern Miss was up 14-0 after the first quarter, and it looked like this was going to be a big game. Halftime, it was 28-21. South Florida. I don't know what happened. We just fell apart in the second quarter, and by the time game was over, it was 49-24. I don't know how Southern Miss managed that, but it just happened. All right, we're about to duck out for a break here, but we'll be right back here on Weekly Wrap-Up.
Southern Miss has officially built a new pre-professional office located in room 203 in the Cook Library. This office supports both undeclared students and those pursuing studies in law and health-related fields. Both advisors offer their distinct support. Ashley Johnson helps students with professional services, guiding them into programs like law and medical school, while Lisa Rieger focuses on assisting undeclared students in finding their major. I interviewed both advisors, asking them about their program. Here's what they had to say.
For exploratory, I help with students that are listed as exploratory studies, which is our undeclared students. And I also work with the Complete to Compete program, which is an adult learner program helping students come back to school and finish out that bachelor's degree. On my side, it's a lot about connecting with students just with resources to help them get what they need to be successful academically and just reach those kind of checkpoints of declaring a major and getting to graduation.
Their office hours are 8 a.m. to 5 p.m., Monday through Friday. Go to usm.edu/preprofessional for more information. Micaiah Jackson, SM2 News.
All right, everybody, we are back now. Thank you to Micaiah Jackson for that audio wrap there. We appreciate that very much. She does a great job here at Southern Miss Student Media. Looking forward to next week as far as the student prints. We have a lot of big stories we're covering for next week. One of the main ones, we have a profile coming up on Samantha McCain Alexander, who is the Director of Strategic Communications for advancement here at the University of Southern Miss. A couple other big stories we have one of our journalists highlighting the Southern Miss male cheerleaders. And I know down here in the South, for years, male and cheerleader haven't been they sound weird to some people, but they really help the environment of games here. At Southern Miss, at other schools like Alabama, at football games, it's amazing, and they really help the crowd get all riled up and supporting the team. Another big story that we have is that the University Forum, a large speaking event that's been hosted by the Honors College, is celebrating their 50th anniversary this year. September 17th, 1974, USM history professor Ray Skates hosted the first Honors Forum for a panel of history and political science professors. 50 years later, these speeches are still going on and have gone to include famous people from all different kinds of things. We've had sports journalist and comedian Louis Grizzard in the 1980s. South Carolina Senator Strom Thurmond came twice in the 70s and 80s. Pat Buchanan, Tom Wolfe, Ralph Nader. It's a big deal. This past week, the Honors Forum hosted Ed Young, a big-time science journalist, and we were proud to have him here. It was on September 17th, 2024, 50 years to the day that the first ever Honors Forum was ever held. And we're glad to have something like that. More things going on. We have a big story in the Jimmy A. Payne Foundation that has funded 17 projects across academic and student programs at Southern Miss. That's a big deal, too. A few other things we have going on in the prints this week. The Fall Career and Graduate School Fair if you ever get the opportunity that you can go for your graduate's degree, it's a big deal. I mean, I know I'm a junior going for my bachelor's right now, but still, it always helps just to have that last little bit of education for a job. Gets you a better position. Another big story. Southern Miss Lady Eagle basketball assistant head coach Barbara Ferris has been inducted into the Louisiana High School Sports Hall of Fame. And y'all, if y'all haven't watched McNellis ball, the ladies basketball team is an amazing team, and we send out all kinds of praise and everything to Coach Joy Lee McNellis, who has just recently overcome cancer, and she has made a historic run here at Southern Miss for the last 20 years. Another big story that we have coming out this week is Rebecca Vega, a Southern Miss women's soccer player, will represent Venezuela in the 2024 FIFA U20 Women's World Cup. Y'all, I was never big on soccer until I got to college, but I tell you, it's a pretty entertaining sport to watch now when you get into it and you understand it. I always thought football was rough. Soccer's a whole different story. I think we're going to duck out to a break real quick. Stay tuned here on the weekly wrap-up. I'm Andy Borelli. We'll be right back.
It's that time of year again. The temperature is dropping and the leaves are shedding their green hue. For most, it means it's time to break out their favorite sweater. But health professionals advise that people get their COVID shots and their flu shots early this year.
The season usually starts around the beginning of August. However, we did receive them a little earlier this year. It was the end of July, so you want to get it as soon as possible because it takes about 2 weeks for it to actually start working into your system.
According to the Center for Disease Control in 2022 and 2023, Mississippi ranked the lowest nationwide in vaccinations, but ranked second highest with nationwide death rates due to the flu.
It's very important so that your system can start functioning to develop immunity to make sure that it is fighting against the flu as it is developing. And as well, it'll be in your system so that you'll be ready for the season as it starts.
Free flu shots are available to those with medical insurance or through Medicare Part B. If you do not have insurance or Medicare, you will be charged $115 for a senior dose vaccine or $68 for a seasonal vaccine. For more information, visit cvs.com/flu shots. Micah Gibbs, SM2 News.
What is dedication?
My daughter is biological and my son is adopted. I love them both so much. From the morning when you wake up to putting them to bed at night and every moment in between. I think a parent's job is to protect our children, but also prepare them for the world so they become good, kind human beings.
That's dedication. Find out more at fatherhood.gov. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
Southern Miss Radio is home to Don Rodney Radio's Rhythm and Blues Show.
WUSM, Southern Miss Radio, 88.5, Don Rodney Radio's Rhythm and Blues Show, another summertime song. I love this.
Don Rodney Radio spotlights the composers and performers of Mississippi Delta Blues, such as Charlie Patton, Mississippi John Hurt, Robert Johnson, and more. Here on Southern Miss Radio, Sundays from noon until 2.
Adopt US Kids presents What to Expect When You're Expecting a Teenager. Learning the Lingo.
GOAT, G-O-A-T, acronym, stands for Greatest of All Time. As in, spaghetti sandwiches for dinner? They're my fave. Dad, you're the GOAT.
You don't have to speak teen to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will love you just the same. Visit adoptuskids.org. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council.
Calling all families.
Calling all children. And kids of all ages.
Are you looking for a variety of music the whole family can listen to?
Yeah!
Then look no further. We have traditional songs, international tunes, and fresh new beats.
Join us every Saturday morning from 9 to 10 a.m.
Right here on Southern Miss Radio
for the Hickory Dickory Dock Show. Catch you Saturday. Catch you then.
All right, everybody, welcome back to Weekly Wrap Up. It's your host, Andy Borelli here, editor for the Student Prince. Couple of big stories I want to go over with y'all real quick. This weekend, Southern Miss travels to Jacksonville, Alabama to take on the Jacksonville State Gamecocks in what is sure to be an exciting game in college football. Jackson State is currently 0-3 on the year, suffering losses to Coastal Carolina early at the first game of the season. Then they lost to number 22 Louisville the next week, and then just last week they lost 37-34 to Eastern Michigan, and get this, second overtime. This is a game Southern Miss can't afford to lose, especially for the sake of our head coach. But it's definitely a big game. This is the first time that these two schools have met since the 1940s. Southern Miss currently holds a 2-0 lead in the overall series. And like I said a minute ago, it's sure to be a great game. Another big thing I want to talk about with y'all is I, Andy Borelli, am starting a new show here for Southern Miss Student Media. I apologize for that. The show is called 601 Eats with Andy Borelli. I am going around to different locally owned restaurants in the Pine Belt area, trying out and reviewing the food, the atmosphere, and what makes some of these restaurants the best place. We hope to have our first episode up by next week, and I hope you all will join me as I go around to roughly 40 different restaurants located throughout Purvis, Hattiesburg, Oak Grove, Petal, and other parts of the Pine Belt. And also, if you can't find the show, we will also have a short little recap of each episode here on WUSM. Well, folks, this has been fun today to be my first appearance on this show. I will be back here in roughly a month or so, but I apologize for any little breaks, awkward moments. But thank y'all for tuning in to the Weekly Wrap-Up on Southern Miss Radio.
This has been the Southern Miss Student Media Weekly